Divorce. It's a heavy word, isn't it? It's one of those universal experiences that just completely reshapes lives, families, well, everything. But when a marriage does end, it always brings up this one huge question. Who truly bears the heaviest burden? That's the complex issue we're going to unpack today.
Okay, let's just dive right into the heart of it. Who suffers more from divorce, men or women? I mean, this is a question that sparks endless debate, right? It's often fueled by personal stories, by long-held beliefs. But what does the data actually tell us?
So, on one side, you've got the conventional wisdom, the story we all kind of know. Women get hit the hardest, especially in their finances. But then there's this other side, a sort of hidden story, about a totally different set of struggles that men often face in the emotional fallout. And the truth? Well, it's way more complicated than you might think.
Yeah, a major study in the journal Demography really gets to the core of this. It says, the seemingly clear picture gets clouded when put into a larger context of divorce outcomes. In other words, to really get it, you can't just look at one piece of the puzzle. You have to see the whole picture.
So, here's how we're going to do it. We'll start with that big question. Then we'll look at the financial fallout, the emotional roller coaster, the new reality of just daily life, and then we'll end with something you might not expect, the gift of regret.
First up, let's talk about the thing that's on everyone's mind, the money. And for a lot of people, this isn't just some short-term problem. Researchers call it chronic strain, a long-term persistent pressure that just doesn't let up.
Okay, just look at this number. In the very first year of a divorce, women's household income plummets by an average of 40%. I mean, wow, that is a staggering, life-altering drop, and it comes from a major German socioeconomic panel study.
And that drop has a devastating real-world impact. A woman's risk of poverty absolutely skyrockets. It jumps from just 7% before the divorce to nearly 45% after. That is a more than six-fold increase. It's huge.
So, what's happening with men during all this? Well, that same study found their household income actually goes up by about 5% in that first year. So the financial story is just undeniably lopsided, creating this massive, immediate gap. But money isn't everything, right? Let's move to our next section, which tells a very, very different story. This one isn't about that chronic long-term strain. It's about what you might call transient or short-term pain, the emotional roller coaster. And this is really the crucial question, isn't it? Is our well-being just about what's in our bank account? Or is there another, equally important side to this story?
Well, here's where the script completely flips. When you look at satisfaction with family life, it's men who experience a much sharper drop, a full 2.5 points on a 10-point scale. That is a massive hit to their personal sense of well-being.
And that feeling of isolation, it hits men harder too. In the year of the divorce, over 40% of men say they feel lonely often. That's double the rate for women. So the social and emotional shock for men is incredibly immediate and incredibly severe.
You know, the study's author, Thomas Leopold, he sums it up perfectly. He says men's psychological strain is sharp, but it fades over time. It's transient. Women's economic hardship, on the other hand, is deep and it's lasting. It's chronic. So you've got two different kinds of pain on two totally different timelines.
So all of this brings us to our third section, a new reality. Because divorce doesn't just mess with your finances and your feelings, it completely changes the nuts and bolts of your day-to-day life.
Just take housework, for example. Before the divorce, women were doing about 3 hours a day compared to just under an hour for men. Afterwards, women's time drops a little while men's goes up. The roles start to move closer together, but yeah, there's still a pretty significant gap.
But here's a reality that doesn't really converge. In the year of the divorce, 55% of women become single parents. For men, that number is only 14%. This one chart really shows one of the most profound and persistent differences in what life looks like after divorce.
All right, for our last section, we're going to move beyond the numbers and into a deeply human emotion that affects almost everyone going through this, the gift of regret.
Divorce regret is that awful what-if feeling, you know? And just look at how common it is. About 32% of men and 27% of women feel it. It's a totally natural and shared part of the whole grieving process.
And these are the kinds of thoughts that can just keep you up at night. I should have tried harder. Why didn't I see the red flags? We should have gone to counseling. These regrets are heavy for sure, but they don't have to be the end of the story. Because here's the thing, regret can actually be a catalyst. Instead of letting it crush you, you can learn to harness it.
It all starts with just acknowledging the feeling, then using it to learn some lessons, and, this is the important part, practicing some self-compassion, forgiving yourself. And when you do that, regret can become the very tool that helps you build a better, brighter future.
So let's circle back to that original question. Who pays the price? Well, the answer isn't a simple men or women. The real answer is, it depends. It depends entirely on what you're measuring. Is it finances or feelings? And when you measure it, in that initial painful aftermath, or in the long, chronic years that follow.
And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. If real recovery isn't just about balancing your budget, or just waiting for the sadness to go away, what does it truly mean to heal? What does it take to not just survive a divorce, but to actually emerge from it with real wisdom and strength? Now that's the question worth reflecting on.